morning. My name is Lisa A. Romano, and I am the Breakthrough Life Coach, mentor, and best-selling author. I am the creator of the transformational 12-week breakthrough coaching program, which essentially has been created to help those of us who have been wounded in childhood and who have been living below the veil of consciousness, as I like to say, who have been unaware. We were unaware by just how deeply we have been wounded in childhood. I coach adult children who have been wounded through dysfunction, through alcoholism, through parental drug abuse, through parental mental illness, through parental indifference. I coach adult children who have been abused by narcissistic parents. I also coach adult children who have lived what they once presumed was a pretty nice life. Some of my clients come from two-parent homes, very well-to-do homes, in fact. Some of my clients have been raised by doctors and lawyers and PhDs and have felt their whole life that they didn't fit in. They felt like aliens. They felt like there must be something wrong with them because everything on the outside looked so damn perfect. So it had to be them. There had to be something wrong with them. I coach adult children who have felt separated from themselves as well as others. I coach adult children who feel this hole within themselves that no amount of drinking, no amount of sex, or pornography, or shopping, or medication can fill. There is this hole within them, this gaping hole. They feel dissociated from the self. They are unable to identify their feelings. They can tell you how everybody else feels. They cannot tell you how they feel. They can tell you that they are afraid of other people's anger. They will tell you that they know how to honor other people's anger. But they will also tell you that they don't know how to honor their own anger. I coach some adult children who are only angry. That is the only emotion that they can identify. I coach adult children who are depressed, and they cannot feel anything besides great sadness. And they have been in and out of therapy. They have spent tens of thousands, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars following spiritual teachers and gurus all over the planet looking for some relief. Those are the kinds of people I coach, and these people represent, to some degree, what all of us have experienced at one time or another. I know I have. These are my people. These are forgotten people. People who have been sold a bunch of ideas and beliefs that are false and that are illusions. They are self-destructive. They don't work. They don't work. So I've gotten recently a few letters that have asked me to address this idea of unconsciousness in a podcast. And so today is that day. I believe that we are all asleep until we wake up, and it sounds sort of like, what the hell is she talking about? I'm awake. I'm animated. I know what day it is. I know what year it is. I know what's happening in the world. I'm awake. When I say awake, I mean enlightened. I mean no longer living through the perspective of ego. When I say awake, I mean that a human being has developed the ability to see themselves and to see their thoughts and to see the programming and the beliefs that created the thoughts from a higher state of awareness. If you are a child who has been raised in a dysfunctional home, you have been sold and have believed in a certain set of ideas and beliefs. For argument's sake, let's say you are a female and you have been born to a family that doesn't believe that females are as valuable as males. From before you were born, you have been vibrationally imprinted to feel less than. Ideas, feelings, and intentions are energy. And although the human eye cannot see this energy, it is real. And I believe, and I might be wrong, and I'm not the kind of person who, if I was proven wrong, would hold on to an idea just to hold on to an idea. I love expanding what I think and what I believe. But right here and right now, I believe that intentions act like rubber stamps, vibrational rubber stamps, on a developing fetus, or essentially the cells of a developing fetus. I believe that feelings and trauma are forms of intention. And these forms of intentions, these energetic or quantum blueprints, as I like to call them, get stamped down upon the cells of our beings. A woman who is fertile has eggs in her ovaries, and I believe it's possible for women who are carrying trauma to blueprint these eggs vibrationally with trauma. I believe that. And a scientist might argue that point because a scientist can't put that equation inside a petri dish or measure it or shoot it out of a ray gun. And I get it. But it makes sense to me. So if you find that this information resonates with you, just hold on. So imagine a young girl of 21 years old, let's say, who has been raised by a mother, who was raised to feel less than because she's a female, who has been raised in a particular religion, let's say, that believes women are less than. Think about this young girl who has been raised by a woman inside a religion, inside a culture, inside a society, and perhaps inside a country that shares this mass belief, this mass consciousness. Imagine the weight of that consciousness, of that false belief, of that illusion. Imagine being that girl, born to that mother, to that father, to that family, to that faith, to that town, to that city, to that country. Imagine the weight of that. That's programming. That's brainwashing. Those are false ideas that she believes in. She is asleep. And that's not her fault. Her mother is asleep. Her father is asleep. Her faith is asleep. Her town, her city, her country is asleep. And they are asleep because the belief is false. It's an illusion. Females are not less than men, nor are they greater than men. There is no such thing as greater or less than. In the quantum world, in the subatomic world, if you wanted to chop people up into their smallest part, there is no such thing as separation. There are atoms, neutrons, electrons, and quarks. There are bands of light. That's what every human being is a band of light at its core. And so when I say someone is asleep, I am suggesting that until someone has the miraculous conscious birth of being able to objectify the thoughts and the beliefs that they have been spoon-fed since childhood, then they are under the illusion of the family of origin beliefs. They are under the illusion that mother and father are correct, that their faith is correct, that their culture is correct, and that their country is correct. That is an illusion. That is an illusion. But try telling that to the young woman who watched her friend get stoned to death because she talked to a boy from a different town. Try telling that to the boy who took part in the stoning of a little girl who was caught kissing someone who was not of her faith. Try telling that to a group of men who believe that women are less than them. Try telling them that. They won't listen. They won't hear you because their belief is so strong. A belief creates reality. And we are not awake until we have developed the ability to question the thoughts and the beliefs that are rolling around in our head. When I coach this ability in people who are suffering from the illusions of the past, it's amazing to have the honor to participate in someone's rebirth and awakening. But it's a very delicate time for someone who is beginning to question their mind. And that's why it's so important to anchor yourself to the idea that at your core, You are perfect and you are divine. There is a essence and a divinity in you that is flawless and perfect. It is the light within you. It is the light that you are. It's difficult, I understand. I had moments in my own recovery where when I heard myself asking myself, what's happening in my mind? That's not my thought. I don't like to judge people. My mother judged people. My father was highly critical. I don't think that. Where did that thought come from? It made me nervous because it made me feel like I could not trust my own mind. I didn't know what thoughts I could trust and what thoughts I could not trust. I understand. Those of you who have followed my work and have graced me with the honor of taking my coaching program and are on my Facebook support groups and coach with me privately and write me and read my books. I understand how scary that point in your recovery can be. And that is why I create all the work that I do and I put it out into the universe so that when you have those types of moments, you can hang on. And I'm not saying just hang on to the work of Lisa A. Romano. Find an anchor that allows you to feel comforted when you find yourself questioning your own mind. But we have to, dear ones. We have to question our minds because what goes in must come out. As it is below, so shall it be above. When you and I were children, we were asleep. That's factual by our brainwave states. We were asleep. Ever wonder why newborns sleep so much? They are asleep. Their brainwave state is not conscious, not really. And we are in trance-like states for, I believe, up until about 7 or 8 years old. What goes in must come out. So we are being programmed up until we are about 12 years old. And then we take what has been put in, and then it begins to come out. That is why so many of us begin suffering with suicidal thoughts at 12. Or we begin to have emotional breaks at 12 because we have not been prepared for life. At 12 years old, we're not babies anymore. We're expected to be a little more grown up than our 3-year-old brother or sister, and yet we feel like we're 3 years old because we have not been taught that we are valuable. We have not been taught that our feelings matter. We have not been taught that we are worthy. We go out into the world fractured. This is why so many young girls at around this age begin starving themselves, cutting themselves, develop bulimia and anorexia. Boys too. This is why so many young boys at this age start getting into trouble. They're looking for a sense of self. They don't feel connected to their family. And they go out and they feel powerless. What goes in must come out. If you were bullied as a child, you might become a bully. Or you might go out into the world and be bullied. That's what happened to me. Sadly, my mother was my first bully. And when I went out into the world, I was bullied pretty badly, to the point that at 12 years old, I had my father's pistol to the side of my head. I wanted to die. There was no joy in my life. How could there be? How could there be? I was not taught that I was worthy. I didn't trust my inner reality. My inner world was painful. My outer world was painful. What the hell? Why live? Why live? I decided not to kill myself. Obviously, dear ones. Obviously. But that's because I heard a thought. I heard a voice say to me, put down the gun. One day you'll show them. And I know that sounds nuts. And trust me, in the moment that I heard this audible voice say, put down the gun, one day you'll show them, I thought I was nuts too. I actually said, oh shit, my mother's right. I'm nuts. Because I had a schizophrenic aunt who my mother used to compare me to. I suppose the moral of the story is I didn't follow through. And today my life is a series of ongoing, instant manifestations and miracles. I figured it out, but it wasn't easy. It was extremely painful. To have to go to school the next day after being bullied by the boy that I loved and being called disgusting and gross. Very difficult for me to go back to school. And the coping skill that I used was dissociation. I dissociated from my inner world. That kept me safe. That's the way my psyche protected me. That's the way my psyche made it possible for me to go to school and face these mean little bastards that they were. Excuse me. Today I realized that those mean little bastards were mean probably because they had people at home that were mean. I get that now. It's taken me a long time to get to that vantage point in my mind. I can forgive. I can forgive and I can even let go. But that doesn't mean I'll offer myself up as a sacrifice to anyone. I don't let people bully me anymore. I walk away. I don't even argue anymore. It's ridiculous to argue with someone. To argue someone's belief is to try to push over a concrete building. You can't. Why bother? Save your energy. Go for a nice walk in the sun. Let people think what they want. The more awakened you become, the more you understand these ideas, and the more you understand that the world is full of people who are asleep and they don't know it, and it's not their fault. I'm not a religious person, and anybody who follows my work has heard me say that so many times. I'm not. But I can't deny what has been a part of my history. The Bible says when man is born, a great sleep falls upon him. That's true. You forget your divine nature. You enter into this world and you do have false gods before you. They're called mommy and daddy, and brother and sister, and uncle and aunt, grandma and grandpa, Mrs. So-and-so, the kindergarten teacher, the policeman. These are all authorities that you look up to, who program you to believe what they believe. The world is asleep, my friends. The world is asleep. I don't know you personally, but I know if you're listening, you're not like most of the world. You are a seeker. You are someone who wants to know the truth. The truth of what? The truth of self. That's all you need to know, really. All you need to know and discover is that you are enough. All you need to know is that you are enough. You have always been enough. And there's nothing that you need to do to prove your worthiness to anyone. Once you truly know that you're enough, you can turn away and walk away from people who don't think you're enough. If you fly high enough, if your brain develops the ability to be highly cognitive, and if you start living through the neocortex of your brain, which is above the amygdala and the hippocampus, if you start being able to utilize the prefrontal cortex, then you will understand how powerful letting go really is. Letting go of what? Letting go of people. Letting go of the idea that you need their validation. Letting go of the idea that you need other people's permission to be angry at them. Imagine that, dear one. You do not need permission to be angry at someone. You're allowed to be angry. If someone has hurt you or harmed you or lied to you, deceived you, roped you into a business relationship under false pretenses, if you have been manipulated by a covert narcissist, if you are living with people who abuse your kindness, you have a right to be angry. That doesn't mean you go kick the dog. That doesn't mean you go break anybody's car window. That just means that you say, wow, I'm angry. I'm just going to sit with this anger for a while, and then I'm going to decide how I want to move forward. So what gets you unstuck is the decision you're going to make about being angry. So we also have to understand intention. Develop the ability to question your intention. I write about this in Codependent Now What? It's not you, it's your programming. You are a blessed one if you develop the ability to observe the motivating factor for what comes out of your mouth. Because if you can observe the intention, if you're able to be that self-aware, to ask yourself, why did I just say that? Was that a codependent, covert move that I just did? Am I seeking sympathy? Am I being manipulative? And if the answer is yes, that's awesome. Because now, in that moment, you have the ability to transmute that energy and say to yourself, no, that is no longer of me. I no longer serve that energy. I choose to serve a different mindset and a different intention. I choose to allow the chips to fall where they may. I choose to allow this person to have their perception. I am going to choose to allow to have this person feel the way they wish to feel about me, because I understand they are asleep. And the filter that they observe life through is faulty. And when he says, I'm a bitch, he's not even talking about me. He's talking about someone from his past. Maybe his mother, maybe his sister, maybe an old girlfriend. I know who I am. And I know that I am more awake than that person. And so therefore, I can walk away knowing that his projection is a product of his dream state, of his unconsciousness. I can bless him and walk away in love and light. That is the goal. That type of freedom, that comes when we understand how we became what we became. That comes after we understand that it's not us, it's our programming. Those types of thoughts come through healing the self, through observing the self. My wish for this podcast is to help any of you who are interested in the kind of work that I do, which is all leading you towards ascension of the old, becoming anew, mastering the mind, learning how to override the default settings in the brain, rising up and out of, literally, neurologically, rising up and out of the amygdala and the hippocampus, developing new neural pathways to the neocortex, to the prefrontal lobe. That is where your power is. It's about becoming neurological adults, learning to heal the neurological child that is stuck in a reactive mode below the veil of consciousness, who is unaware they are unaware. This is a spiritual path towards ascension as much as it is a neurological path towards ascension. There is no separation. What happens to you emotionally happens to you neurologically, happens to you biologically, happens to you chemically. A great problem that so many of us have had, I know I did, and so many of my clients have, and those of you who write me, is that our healing has been segmented. We have not understood the neurological equivalent of a spiritual awakening or a mindful awakening, those of you who are agnostic, a mind awakening. We have not understood the scientific nature of a spiritual or mindful awakening. But there is one. If you have been separated from your mother or your father, if you've suffered abandonment, you are deprived of oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical. It's a feel-good chemical. When you learn to heal shame and you learn to bond with the inner child, you begin to flow oxytocin, a feel-good chemical, a bonding agent. And you know, all those holes that you felt within you before you began to understand the true nature of the universe and of your mind begin to heal up. You begin to bond. Those holes begin to fill up with feel-good chemicals, with serotonin. Because as you heal, as you begin to understand the true nature of what has happened to you, you begin to rise up, literally rise up, and your brain begins to function in a healthier way. The path to ascension is as much neurological as it is anything else. And that is really good news, because those of us who could not make sense of what was happening to us because we only sought medical advice or scientific advice, or we only sought spiritual teachers, those of us who need to merge the science with the ethereal, this kind of information, this kind of knowledge makes sense. And it helps the left brain merge with the right brain. It helps us feel more confident that healing is real and that it can happen and it can be long-lasting. Thank you so much for honoring me with your time, the one thing that I will never be able to give back to you. I hope that this podcast has not disappointed you, and I hope that you feel more enlightened and more empowered by this kind of information. I bless you. I honor you. I see you. I feel you. I love you. Believe it or not, I love you. In you, there I am, and in me, there you are. There is no separation, dear one. So for today, try to be more aware and more awake, and try to be more accepting of those who aren't. Try to be more accepting of those who aren't. Their day shall come, or maybe not in this lifetime, but that's not our business. Our business is to nurture the self and to awaken to the God self, the divine self, the creative self. That is our job. It is our job to become the light of our world and then to share that light with the world. And one of the ways we do that is we stop allowing others to diminish the light within us. We learn to just be. We learn to just be. a human being. Human. Just being. And then we follow our bliss. That is the path you're on, dear one. And if you fall off, just get back on again. Turn on a YouTube video or a podcast. That's all it will take to get you back on track. Again, my name is Lisa A. Romano. I am the Breakthrough Life Coach, mentor, and best-selling author. I'm the creator of the 12-week Breakthrough Coaching Program. You can check out my work at www.lisaaromano.com, and my books are available on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. Dear ones, you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Namaste.